Good morning and welcome to my hobby bench once again. And as you can see on the table, I've got a K&B engine here. But before I get into talking about this particular engine, I want to just mention a friend of mine that I haven't heard from in several years now, and I'm a bit concerned. And I'm dedicating this video to him. His name is John Kalinsky. Now he has been, or had been, a significant contributor of engines and knowledge to me and this channel for several years, and it's been several years since I've heard from him. And he was ill, and all of a sudden I just stopped hearing from him, and I think this was back in 2020. So John, if you're still out there, I'd love to hear from you again. I miss you, and I miss all the information that you used to give me on Fox and K&B engines. With that said, what I've got on the table here is something that I thought was incredibly interesting, and I've never really been a huge fan of K&B engines per se. For whatever reason, I've just never had a lot of them, but this one really kind of was interesting to me. This is actually a K&B 40 RC Quickie 500 engine. Now, this is a new in-box engine. It seems to be as complete as possible based on what I know about K&B engines. But it's got a lot of interesting information inside this box, and I haven't been able to find a whole lot of history on this engine other than what I have found in this book and a little blurb on the Mikoa website, which I'll put up a link to or maybe put an image of. But in this book here, on page 132, down here at the bottom, it mentions 151 K&B 40 RC Quickie 500, September 1980. It's a model number 8011, similar to the 40F RC number 103, but the case modified to take screws for mounting, new muffler, pressure, tap, and here's a picture of it from this book, and it features an Irvine carburetor, squish band head, no exhaust baffle. So this is a picture of the engine, and I think it's interesting because K&B has used several different carburetors in the past, and apparently I never knew they actually incorporated an Irvine carburetor until I found this engine. Now this is an interesting box because it's specifically set up to be set up in a hobby shop. Let me zoom out here and be displayed like this, which is kind of nice. So let me show you what this says here real quick. It's for scale, pattern, and the Quickie 500 event. So this plane is designed to, or this engine is designed to be a real burner, it seems like. New K&B muffler, new Irvine carburetor, large bypass for more power, squish band head. I have no idea what that means. This is interesting. K&B's no tension single ring and aluminum piston. No long break-in period required. I don't know what that means either. It does come with some instructions, and we'll get to that. Let me just start looking at the contents of this box, because I think this is really a sweet acquisition. And I love the packaging. I love the way they've got this set up in here. So here's our exhaust. Nothing really special, but it's a nice looking exhaust. It looks like it is two pieces kind of pressed together. Whether that means it has a baffle in it or not, I'm not certain. Here's the engine itself. And it has some serial numbers on it. It looks like 68,375 is what it says here. It just has the K&B logo and it says 40 on the side. Now this wasn't tight on here, but it is the Irvine carburetor. It says Irvine on front. It comes with a little dust seal, which I thought was kind of cool. High-speed needle is not installed. I mean, it looks like a pretty decent carb. I don't know that I've read anything real positive about this carb, at least kind of from the Mikoa website. But this is the engine, and it looks, you know, K&B has never been known for having really nice looking castings, and I think maybe that's one of the reasons I was never really that enamored with them, because if you look closely at this, there's rough edges. It doesn't have that OS casting quality. None of them ever have. But one of the things I think is interesting here is this prop nut has got a set screw on it and then a roll pin. And if you watch this, it's got a removable stud to attach the prop. Now I have seen that before on other Can-Be engines, and that's not an uncommon thing, really. It came installed with a plug here. Let me grab my nut driver real quick and we'll pull that plug out, because I thought that on the Mikoa site, I thought it said the type of plug, or maybe in the instructions here it says that. We'll get to that type of plug that is recommended. And it's always nice when you get an engine like this that comes with a new glow plug, because glow plugs are incredibly expensive now. So here it is. I'm not sure what model that is. It looks like a long plug. It doesn't have an idle bar. I thought I had read something about it needing an idle bar, requiring an idle bar plug, but maybe that was a Fox engine that I was reading about too. I don't know. Could have been. Let me just try and get this threaded back in here real quick. And then we'll move on to the contents of the box, because the box are rather interesting in and of themselves. Let's put this back on here. And yes, this is going to be a runner. I do want to run this engine. However, as I'm making this video, it is past mid-November, and my window of opportunity for running engines is running out very fast. In fact, I plan on going out to the field hopefully today, because it's going to be a seasonable day. Well, it's going to be cool, but it's a beautiful day. I want to see if I can get a couple more engine runs in before things get too cold. So here, let me just move this stuff, the box out of the way, so I can show you this. Here is all the paperwork that came with this. As far as I know, this is completely complete. Instructions for your Can-Be engine. Introduction. Thank you for purchasing this Can-Be 40 RC engine. This engine is aimed at the Sport and Quickie 500 Flyer. We hope you will have many hours of enjoyment with it. Now here, this is, I think, is interesting, and I'm just going to read some of this to you. Engine only, the warranty. This engine is guaranteed to be free from defective parts and or workmanship for the useful life of the engine. For the useful life of the engine. This guarantee does not cover any damage to the engine caused by willful neglect, damage, or as a result of uncontrolled operation, whatever. The useful life of the engine. So my question is this warranty still valid? Apparently, I mean, this engine is still new in box. As far as I'm concerned, the useful life of the engine begins when the engine is run for the first time, not when production stops or whenever they decide that. So I'm wondering, is this, does this engine warranty still hold up? Maybe I should forward this video to the fellow that runs Mikoa and owns all the rights to Can-Be and ask him. I think that would be interesting. Break-in. Here, let me read this real quick. Break-in. As the engine is equipped with a single no-tension ring and piston setup, little or no break-in time is required. However, it is advised that the first 15 to 20 minutes of runtime be made at this slightly rich mixture setting using supersonic 100 or 500 fuel. I have no clue what supersonic 100 or 500 fuel is, what its nitro content is, oil content, nothing. If anybody watching this, and I haven't tried to do a search on it either, but I'm not sure I'll find much, knows what supersonic 100 or 500 fuel is, that would be interesting to know. Let's see if there's anything else of note. Oh, a nice line drawing, full-scale, actual-size line drawing. It actually says with Irvine carb on here too, so that's cool. This is an envelope for returning or ordering parts, I guess. Now, it was had been subjected to humidity and was already kind of sealed, so I opened it up because I was curious, and look at this. You open up the envelope, and there's the part numbers and the prices for all the different parts of this engine. And at the time that this was printed, an Irvine 40 carburetor complete was $14.95. $14.95. That's pretty interesting. So I thought this was a really cool thing here. Glow plug with washer, $1.65. I certainly don't ever remember when glow plugs were ever $1.65. So I think in that book, what was the year that this came out? That's important. Let me look that up real quick. September 1980. Okay, so that's when this engine came out, September 1980. So that predates my entry into the hobby by 8 years. So I don't ever remember even paying, I don't remember what glow plugs were when I first got into the hobby, but they weren't $1.65. Irvine carburetor. Here's the instruction sheet for the Irvine carburetor, which I think is interesting. Here they say the list price is $15.95, but on that envelope, a replacement is $14.95. So there you go. And they even assigned it a K&B part number. Now, I don't know how many K&B engines came equipped with Irvine carburetors. I thought I read something someplace that indicated that they were not very functional or they didn't work out really well or whatever, because I know for a fact that K&B engines have come with Irvine carbs, Perry carbs, and then K&B Allen carbs. I don't know the history timeline, but I know they've used at least those 3 different carbs. And of course, here's just the instructions for, or the part list for the things for the replacement parts for the carb, and carb running and adjusting your Irvine carburetor. That's interesting too. I'm not going to go over this, but let me just hold this here for a second. So if you want to pause the video, you can read that. It's interesting. And this did not come with the engine. This is something I printed out myself from the Mikoa website. It is the K&B 40 model 8011 early model. Not all parts are available, but this is a exploded parts breakdown of this engine. So it came with a line drawing of the outside of the engine, and then I found this on the Mikoa site, which I think is interesting. So I printed it out. If I needed replacement parts, I'm sure many of these would not be available even now, even though the owner or Mikoa is still operational, and I believe he's still making some parts. But anyway, this has been a look inside and maybe a small history lesson on the K&B RC 40 Quickie 500 engine. And I hope to get this engine on the stand fairly soon, but I cannot guarantee exactly when that will be. But anyway, thank you all for watching.